Welcome to the Dana Point City Council meeting of February the 3rd, 2015. We will now reconvene our meeting. Let the record show that Councilman Mueller has joined us. Mr. Munoz, is there a report out from our closed session?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We had one item on our closed session agenda involving a petition for writ of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court in the matter of the City of Dana Point versus Beach Cities Collective. The Brown Act requires that we report any time that the council authorizes defending against an appeal. The council did authorize that if the Supreme Court requests a response to the petition, that we would go ahead and defend against it, even though it strikes us as very unlikely that that would occur. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. We'll begin our pledge of allegiance will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Tom.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Communication will be provided by Pastor Sabrina Vesta from the Gloria Dei Lutheran Church.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. We pray this evening for our mayor, for the city officials, and for this assembled council. We ask that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is disagreement, and joy in their task. We pray for the agenda set before us. May all the work done tonight benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Dana Point. Amen.
Presentation and proclamations for tonight. The first on the agenda is the business of the month. Mr. Cedita.
Thank you, Mayor Olvera, members of the City Council. I'm pleased to announce Kimball Photography as Business of the Month for February 2015. We are joined this evening by Kimball Photography owner Marvin Kimball and his wife Janie. Marvin's love for photography started as a photojournalist during his undergraduate education, where he did photography for the daily paper. Following this, Marvin went on to do photography for many organizations, including the U.S. Ski Team, Snowbird Ski Resort, local papers, publications, and more. In 2009, Marvin decided it was time to start his own business and started Kimball Photography. Based out of beautiful Dana Point, Marvin works as the main photographer, and Janie does the creative design, image editing, and is also the assistant photographer. Kimball Photography serves all of Orange County and also travels to other destinations to meet their clients' needs. In addition to their local clients, they have many other clients based out of other parts of California and elsewhere, both inside and outside of the United States, who come to Dana Point to visit, have a wedding, event, and uses their services. Kimball Photography services include an array of photography options, including bridal, engagement, and wedding photography, family and children portraits, maternity portraits, events and action photography, business headshots, advertising, commercial, and product photography, and much more. Kimball Photography prides itself on being able to capture those special moments and understands that those special moments need to be preserved, and it is their goal to make sure that those memories are preserved for a lifetime for their customers. On behalf of the City Council, I would like to congratulate Kimball Photography on being selected as Business of the Month. We wish you many years of continued success.
Well, the Kimball Photography and family will join me up at the center. Usually we'd stand right here in the front, as everybody knows, but for our friends, for the Kimballs, we'll just kind of use this for now. One thing I'm so proud about you guys, well, why don't you first tell us a little bit more about your business and some of the unique things that as a photographer you enjoy in Dana Point?
Okay. So we're a small family-owned business, a stone's throw away from this chamber. We get people from all over the world that call us for photography when they come and visit Dana Point. It's truly a destination for people around the world. Not only like overseas that people are calling us, but we get a lot of local clients that we photograph, do headshots, senior portraits, and things like at Dana Hills High School. It's just an awesome place to take pictures, and people come here for that, and I'm grateful.
The thing I like about this selection is small business, and that's kind of what Dana Point's about, having small businesses, especially when it's a family-owned business. And I know Marvin and Janie quite well, and it's glad to have them be here tonight and support them in what they do. And so we will give you it's a certificate of recognition for Kimball Photography as a featured business of the month for February 2015. So I'd like to say to you, congratulations.
Thank you.
And we enjoy you.
Thank you.
One more thing I want to give each of you. Our city pin that you can wear on your lapel or dress or whatever, and wear it in pride. Thank you very much. Okay, the next one we have is for
There you go, Carlos.
we're going to have a presentation by Ursula. Are you going to do this now? No. We're going to do the employee. Okay, Brad Fowler in Public Works will be announcing our employee of the month, and he has a presentation to make. Brad?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm very pleased tonight to be able to recommend Gail Enriquez here, who is my assistant and office manager for Public Works as the employee of the month. Gail and I have worked together for 10 years, and in the Public Works department, she has been, among other things, kind of the mom for the whole department. She looks out after everybody, not just in what they're doing professionally, but also to make sure that everybody is feeling good about what they're doing and that the team is working cohesively together to make sure that our customer service to everyone outside is clicking on all 8 cylinders. It's not, you have, and the title is executive secretary, and that used to mean doing some things right at the office there, but that are pretty much, typing and filing and this and that. And although she is responsible for the department's filing system, and she does do some typing on occasion for us, the expansion of duties and what we expect of these administrative professionals has really grown over time, and she's been up to the task. Because, she deals on our traffic improvement subcommittees and our ocean water quality subcommittees, or she's working on the website, or she is out volunteering at some of our city events, or she is trying to make sure that, we are all getting our agenda packets into our city council members on time and that it's clearly written. So it's just a whole lot of things that she does. And one thing about Gail is that, she does whatever it takes, and she always gets the job done on time. So I'm very pleased, and I hope that everyone recognizes that she is an integral part to the success of our department and to the success of the city in meeting its goals with our residents.
Thank you very much. Gail? One of the things that I want to add to that Brad mentioned that really impresses me is the volunteer work that you do for the community. And I've seen you at the beach cleanups and doing that, and I really appreciate you volunteering to help in the community as well. So what I'm going to give you tonight is a certificate of recognition for February of 2015. We're all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs of all the good things you've done that Brad has summarized. Let us know that we really appreciate your service in Dana Point.
Her husband Marco is here tonight. And they're not really newlyweds, but they're not really oldyweds either. So they got married on watch here at Dana. 2 years?
Okay, Gail, here's your opportunity.
Well, thank you, Mayor Olvera. I really appreciate this honor. Thank you to the council as well, the council members. I'm going on my 13th year here at the city of Dana Point. I'm very proud to be a Dana Point employee. It makes it very easy to come to work when you have such a wonderful staff to work with and a wonderful boss like Brad Feller. I love my volunteer work that I do in the community. I scheduled my wedding between the Festival of the Whales and the Dana Point Grand Prix. So I told my husband we could not get married in March and we could not get married in May. So we chose April. So that's how much I love working here. And I thank you for this opportunity and thank you for your kind words, Brad.
Okay, we got a presentation now by Ursula. You want to start that off, Ursula?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Olvera. The Shop Del Prado contest is a partnership between the city, the Chamber of Commerce, and most importantly, our exceptional hotel properties and other donating merchants whose generosity has made this contest possible. Briefly, the Shop Del Prado contest is a customer reward promotion to encourage patrons to support Del Prado merchants during construction. For every $10 increment spent at one of the 100-plus Del Prado businesses, a ticket is generated for a monthly drawing for a prize. Tonight, Mayor Olvera is going to draw the ticket for the January contest winner. There will be a drawing each month during construction. The receipts for the month of January total $10,358 of sales, which equates to over 1,000 tickets. January's marvelous prize includes an overnight stay at the St. Regis, a $600 value, dinner for two at Salt Creek Grill, a $75 value, and 2 wine cruises from Dana Wharf Sport Fishing and Whale Watching, a $98 value. I can't emphasize enough how thankful the city, the chamber, and the Del Prado businesses are for the generosity of these fine donors. The contest would not be possible without their support, and I would like to publicly thank our generous donors. Unfortunately, none of them could be with us this evening, and I want to announce February's prize includes an overnight stay at the Ritz-Carlton, dinner for 2 at Luciana's, and whale or marine mammal adventure cruise passes from the Ocean Institute. For additional details, visit Shop Del Prado. On the Shop Del Prado contest, visit www.dplanterndistrict.com. Now, without further ado, Mayor Olvera, will you please join, or Heather Johnston, Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, will you please bring up the tickets for Mayor Olvera to select January's winner?
This sounds like a good idea. But I'm gonna have to put it on the side.
I just want to say thank you goes out to the people that donated the prizes as well as the city for really stepping up and helping our small businesses on Del Prado. This has been something, the chamber's lucky enough that we get to see the people that come in and will bring in their receipts for the raffle tickets. So we get to see people who are very excited about this contest. I really do feel that this has given Del Prado businesses a shot in the arm, and I look forward to another 9 more months of it. So thank you.
And the thing I like about it most is that the numbers that Ursula just mentioned to us, over $10,000 from those residents or people in the community who shopped on Del Prado. And it doesn't count those who didn't save their receipts and had their name added to the drawing. So we're really proud of this program and the effort that we're getting to the businesses in Dana Point.
There's a couple of people that have entered in here, so just be careful.
I was told I couldn't put mine in.
Chamber and city is not, they are not eligible.
Mark Taub, who shopped at the Lux Restaurant.
All right, congratulations. We will be following up with Mark direct. We'll be following up with Mark directly.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine, and all will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for a separate action. Are there any items to be removed by the staff, public, or council, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor Olvera. If I could, I'd like to pull item number 10 and bring that back at a later meeting.
Okay, so we'll just pull 10, period. Any others?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Then I entertain a motion to approve the remainder of the calendar.
Second.
Who's first?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those, please record your vote. And the vote shows that it was 5-0. Thank you. At this time, the city clerk will read the titles of the ordinances listed on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I have no ordinance titles to read this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move ahead to public comments. The balance of the public comments will be heard after the... Any person wishing to address the city council during the public comment section or on the agenda item is asked to complete a request to speak form available on the table at the side of the council meet chamber. Completed form is to be submitted to the city clerk prior to the agenda being called by the mayor. In order to conduct a timely meeting, there will be a 3-minute time limit per person and an overall time limit of 15 minutes for this public comment portion. All comments are to be directed to the city council and shall not consist of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional and courteous decorum during their comments. State law prohibits the city council from taking any action on a specific item unless it appears on the posted agenda. And first would be Carol Wilson. Please state your name and place of residence.
My name is Carol Wilson. I live in Capistrano Beach, which is part of Dana Point. I'm here to speak about the issue of the closure of San Clemente Hospital, otherwise known as Saddleback San Clemente. Yesterday, Senator Pat Bates and Assemblyman Bill Breaux sent a letter to Saddleback Hospitals requesting they delay any decision to close San Clemente Hospital after a fact-finding meeting last Friday at the hospital. Councilman Mueller, I believe, attended that meeting, as well as Bob Baker from San Clemente, and was also in attendance at that meeting, in addition to some of the doctors that are working with Save San Clemente Hospital and administrative staff from the hospital. I do want to remind everybody of the urgency of this matter, because the Board of Directors of Saddleback is voting on this in March if they're going to close this hospital. So that's why we're trying to press you that there is an urgent matter here. I think this issue, because of timing, is late coming to the attention of the Dana Point Council, and I'm requesting that you make this issue an agenda item and work towards passing a resolution opposing the closure of Saddleback San Clemente and its ER room. Resolutions have already been passed by San Clemente, Mission Viejo, and San Juan Capistrano councils. The impact in our city is not only going to endanger lives, increase mortality rates, and that can be up to 15% due to the time of transport, but it will cost the city considerable money as well. One day last week, Mission Hospital, there were 14 different paramedics on wall time or waiting to leave the hospital because there were no beds to put the patients that they had brought there. The current diversion rate at Mission is up close to 20%, and Mission leads all Orange County hospitals in diversion rates. Add the 40-plus patients seen daily at San Clemente, and you can see that the current diversion rate at Mission is going to rise considerably past the 20% it is now. San Clemente is estimating additional staffing, equipment, and resources will cost their city upwards of $2 million a year to be able to cover the time their paramedics and police are out of the city and unavailable, as well as added equipment that they will have to bear the cost of. In the past week, we have several occasions where Mission, Saddleback, Laguna Hills, Mission Laguna, and San Clemente were all on diversion, causing paramedics to go to Irvine and Newport. How can we continue to attract big events and tourists to this city if we can't provide adequate emergency treatment nearby? This will also impact the city's bottom line. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I know some of you were present at the open house last night, and you can tell that there's a lot of people that are concerned about this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Chakevich, do you have anything to report as far as where we are with the staff on this?
I'd be happy to, Mayor Olvera. As I met with Carol and Dr. Eric and Dr. Steve last week, and as I mentioned to them, I'm in the process of collecting the materials that were used in San Clemente, San Juan, and I'm going to ask Robert to get me the materials from Mission Viejo. We're also going to be setting up a meeting with the executive staff at Saddleback at Memorial Care to ask some probing questions and to help us with our due diligence after we've had a chance to review the staff reports. So my anticipation is that hopefully we can wrap up our due diligence in the next week to 2 weeks and then be in a position to work with you to see what direction you'd like to take as far as agendizing this on an upcoming agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next speaker will be Geralt Claude, followed by Penny Maynard. State your name and place of residence.
My name is Claude Giraud in Dana Point. I'm a resident of this town for the last 35 years, and I like it very much. I appreciate all the present improvement that you have made to beautify our city for its 25th anniversary. On our frequent walks around the Strands and the headlands, my wife and I noticed that the passageway for pedestrians only between the Dana Strand Road and Pacific Coast Highway does not bear a name. I will respectfully suggest that this pathway be called Passage des Palmiers. Why such a name? Passage, because it's a passageway. Palmier, because at both ends, as well as along the path, you see palm trees. The D is just grammatical in French for of the. Therefore, Passage des Palmiers. A name which goes well with all the palm trees that have been recently added to the beautify and embellish our beautiful city of Dana Point. Thank you very much for your attention, Mr. Mayor, Council Member, and Member of the Public.
Thank you very much. Ms. Penny Maynard, followed by Mr. Blank.
Hello. I want to congratulate my New England Patriots for their phenomenal victory, and we thank Pete Carroll for making the bad call. Okay? Sorry, no offense to USC people. But last meeting, when Ingrid McGuire spoke about the 25th anniversary, it reminded me that the 10th anniversary of the city council formed a committee, a 10th anniversary committee, and the chairman of our board when I was with the chamber was co-chair of this committee, Dan Beatty. And at that time, they buried a time, we all were part of it, and buried a time capsule. And it was from my recollection, in La Plaza Park. And it said in an email, I downloaded from the web something that said, residents will have an opportunity to send a message to a loved one that will be delivered 10 years down the road when the Dana Point 10th Anniversary Committee buries a time capsule as part of the city's Festival of Wales celebration. And they mentioned where it's going to be and what's going to be included in it. I don't know if an attorney should look at this. Does this mean that they're going to do it in 10 years after the 10th anniversary? They're going to do it in the 20th? Or it says send to a loved one, which means that someone will open it 10 years later. And that was in 2009. Now, I didn't think of it, and I think maybe Mr. Sharkavas might not have been here, because I know if he had been here, it would have been opened at the right moment. But I walked La Plaza, and I spoke with Kevin Evans to ask him if he knew anything about it. I contacted the Festival of Wales Board of Directors, Chair Donna Kales, and asked her if she could look in the records. I have no idea. There's no plaque, there's no mark, there's nothing at La Plaza where I recall it was buried. So I would hope that someone could look for the time capsule. And I guess that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Ms.
Except
Mayor.
go Pats for next year.
Yes.
Bye.
The next speaker wishes to speak on hospital in San Clemente from Laguna Niguel.
What's the name?
No name. Is that you? The name is blank. It's just Laguna Niguel, potential closure of San Clemente Hospital. Is that you? Yeah, fine. Come. Did you want to speak? Come on up. State your name and place of residence. This will be followed by Dr. Nick Kalausius.
Hi, my name is Debbie Weddle. I'm sorry I missed the name spot. I'm a nursing supervisor at San Clemente Hospital. I've been an employee there for 33 years. I live in Laguna Niguel now. The drive time for me from where I live, 5 minutes from here to San Clemente, I can be in my office door in 15 to 20 minutes. To Mission would take me 20 to 30 minutes without traffic. Really what I'm speaking as a nursing supervisor is the effect of the patients from our emergency room and our intensive care unit. Two specific issues I would like to speak to. 2 weeks ago, a longtime community member who lives literally 4 minutes from the hospital had to call 911 because her husband was seizing. She was actually a director at San Clemente for 20 years. When she was told that we were on diversion and they could not go to San Clemente, she fell apart. It added to the heartache and the frightening experience that she was going through with her husband. They very unhappily had to go to Mission Hospital. Another issue happened last week. We had a patient come in on full cardiac arrest. She was resuscitated. Temporary pacemaker was put in her. She was brought to the intensive care unit. She was critical. Her daughters were allowed to come in from Seattle and from New York. They were able to make the decision as a family to make their mother a do not resuscitate. We put her on palliative care, which is making her comfortable, and she passed away about 4 hours later. The daughters, and I was there through all of this, actually came into the ICU in tears. They said, "We're not in tears over the loss of our mother. We are so overwhelmed with the care that was given to my mother at San Clemente. The one-to-one care that she would not have received at a larger hospital. We were allowed to make decisions, and she was allowed to die with dignity. This is the type of care that we are so proud of that we deliver at San Clemente on a daily basis. We may be small. We have an excellent staff of doctors, and I would not have been there for 33 years if I didn't firmly believe in that hospital. I hope you can take this to heart. If you have not been personally affected by it and you need it and it's not there, you will feel the pain and the loss. And I really hope very seriously that you will consider passing a resolution to keep our hospital open. Those of you that were at the meeting on Wednesday, I found it interesting, I was on that day, that you were on the sidewalk and that you were not brought into the hospital. The census was full that day. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. Nick. Please state your name correctly and your place of residence.
Dr. Nick Carhelius, and I live in San Clemente. And Debbie has been there for 33 years. She actually was there when I delivered my son there 18 years ago. First of all, I represent Save Our San Clemente Hospital. I'd just like to thank you guys for your participation in evaluating this issue. We met with Doug. Thank you, Mayor Oliveira, for being there last night, and I believe Joseph, Councilman Mueller was there on Friday for a little bit of a contentious meeting, and also last night. I wanted to delineate the differences between Memorial's plan and what we want. They actually have a very good plan. They want to increase outpatient services by putting a lab there. They want to add ORs. They want to add office complex, and they want to add outpatient radiology. We're not against that at all. What we are against is the part that they don't mention is they want to also close the hospital while they're doing that. We'd actually like them to keep the hospital, the emergency room, and the ICU open, and add all those services, which is the covenant that they made with us 9 years ago when they actually purchased the hospital. I would also, when we were meeting with Doug, he actually mentioned something to me that I didn't quite understand about Dana Point, because the death rates do go up in a landlocked city. And Dana Point isn't quite as landlocked as San Clemente, unless the two hospitals around it close. And South Coast is actually in danger of closing. And if South Coast and San Clemente close, your wall time's going to go up, your death rates are going to go up, and it's going to be a big problem. And you'll kind of be in the same situation. You kind of are in the same situation as San Clemente, but even more so if those events take place. And I would like to point out that's one of the reasons that saving our hospital is very relevant to you. I'm here because I would like, so far, Mission Viejo, San Juan, San Clemente city councils have all voted to place a referendum keeping the hospital open, and hopefully Dana Point will do the same. And I would just encourage you guys to do that. One of the reasons why it's important, not just on a local level or a state level, but on a federal level, when we met with Daryl Isa's representative, they asked us, how many petition signatures do you have? How does the city council feel about it? And in order to get some federal involvement, it would look really good for not just the people of San Clemente, but the city council for Dana Point and the neighboring cities to join in unanimously in that effort. So I encourage you to vote on this issue. And once again, thank you guys all for at least caring and listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Having no other requests to speak, we'll move on to public hearings, and there are no public hearings scheduled tonight. Next will be unfinished business. Mr. Shakevich, you have a staff report?
Yes, I would. Before I turn it over to Brad, I'd just like to make a few brief introductory remarks. I'm really excited about this next item because this is something that we've been working on since I arrived and we received the coastal transit money. Unfortunately, up until now, it just hasn't come together. At one time, we were talking about a Tri-City trolley. For whatever reason, I think the downturn in the economy stopped that, but much to Brad's persistence and council support, we continue to look at getting a trolley in place that can be a connector for the residents with our hotels, the harbor, town center, Doheny Village, as well as the resorts, and possibly the connector to Laguna Beach. They come to Dana Point and pick people up. We'd like to think that people from Laguna Beach will now come here and transfer from the Laguna Beach trolley to the Dana Point trolley to come to our harbor and our other commercial centers. One thing I just want to preface it by saying tonight, the MOU that's before you tonight, we're going to have to hold off on that. And the reason being, it's good news, is that prior to tonight's meeting at 4:45, Brad sent me a message saying that the MOU with the Coastal Commission has been approved with some minor changes. So Brad, if I recall what I read, we're going to need to tweak that and bring that back at an upcoming meeting, correct?
Yes and no. The answer is it needs to be tweaked, but the request in front of the council tonight is that you sign it.
Okay. Candidly, Brad, and again, I don't want to delay the process, but I want to make sure that the council and the community know what those tweaks are. So while I appreciate the council's confidence in me, I believe we're going to have a special meeting, hopefully on the 25th at 6:30. What I'd like to do is get a chance to review that MOU and bring it back before here. And again, I just want to make sure that the council has all the information. I know one of the council members, as we were walking in, said that the dates didn't match between the agreement and the MOU, and so I didn't respond because I wasn't sure because the MOU had changed from when we talked. So I'd really like, for the sake of transparency and giving the council the complete document for the MOU, bring that back when we have the special meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Brad, why don't you go ahead and tell the council what's before them this evening?
Well, good evening again. I'm excited tonight to bring to you the contract for our transit services for Dana Point. This is part of Project V. You all may recall that on December 2nd, the grant fund agreement with the Orange County Transportation Authority was approved. And that gives the city over 7 years almost $2.5 million towards running its local shuttle services. We also, in combination with what Doug just mentioned, the MOU for the transit funds that we have, but the strings come from the Coastal Commission, that totals about $1.3 million now. And together, those funds would combine to allow us to contract for these trolley services without using any general fund money over the 7-year length of the contract and the grants. It's a fairly lengthy contract document in front of you. It is for an agreement that allows, and our recommendation for professional parking transit services, and Ralph Calden is here representing them this evening if we have any questions for them. We went through, and I think you saw that they have a lengthy proposal. It was complete, good references, well thought out, and very responsive to all the requests that we made in our request for proposals that we went out to 23 transit companies. The next step then in the process would be, if you approve, that we contract with them. The contract amount that they are proposing is within our estimated budget requirements for the contract within those funds that I mentioned. Our intent would be to start off with a PCH trolley this summer, late June through the holiday at the end of August, early September. We would go weekends for the PCH trolley, starting Friday, going noon to 10, Saturday 10 to 10, Sunday 10 to 8. The trolley route runs from the Ritz-Carlton and the Monarch St. Regis up to the north, which connects with the Laguna trolley, and runs down along PCH. It has stops in, for example, the Town Center Lantern District area, down at the harbor at Doheny State Beach. It runs down clear to the intersection of Coast Highway and Beach Road, Palisades. Turns around there, comes back up, comes into Doheny Village, has a stop in Doheny Village, and then returns up Pacific Coast Highway. Our headway for that route is 12 to 15 minutes, so that people don't have to wait for a long time. That requires that we put 4 trolleys on that route. We are starting small in a fledgling effort because the OCTA grant requirements that are significant are that we have to, at the end of the first year, have 10 boardings per hour per vehicle. And what that means in round numbers is we've got to start off with, for that day in the summer, 500 riders on that each day. So it's a challenge, but I think we are up to it. I think we have the ability to work with our community. There's a lot of enthusiasm for using it, but we will need to work with all the organizations in town, all our hotels in town, and the community through an outreach program to get in and use that trolley right off the bat, which I think we can do. If we don't do that, we lose the grant funds after the first year. We anticipate and working with our provider believe we can meet that goal, and assuming we get good response in the second year, we can go and run the trolley 7 days a week through the summertime, which is really our real goal to get there in years 2 through 7. We think there is a definite need in the community to do that, and we think it would help both our residents and our businesses. We also in the contract are contracting for event services for shuttles. We are contracting for a harbor shuttle that would run from Dana Hills High School down to the harbor. And working with the harbor, we had anticipated perhaps doing it this year, but with all the fun and games with the Coastal Commission, they really won't be in any significant construction this year. And working with them and the Harbor Merchants Association president decided that it would be best to work on that in year 2 when the added need for parking and construction makes it where they think they can meet that 10 boardings per hour threshold. We also want to be sure that as we move forward, we have an attractive vehicle. It's a little bit interesting in the first year because we're only essentially renting a vehicle because we only have essentially 11 weekends for those trolleys to run. We would use a shuttle, and we're recommending that you spend the money to wrap it so it looks like a shuttle. Looks like a trolley and or a Woody. We have a little challenge in that the shuttle has a kind of a truck nose on it in the back. It's not kind of a flat front vehicle as are depicted in the pictures here, but I think we can come up with something that'll look sharp out there and be attractive to people that are saying, gee, that looks like it's kind of fun to ride, even though it wouldn't be open air for the first year. The proposal from our provider would be, though, if we get to a point where we go all summer, then it makes reasonable sense to invest in new trolleys for the follow-on years. Of course, the price of real trolleys goes up from the price of shuttles that look like trolleys, and that progression goes from 62 unwrapped to 82 wrapped and up to 100 when it's a real trolley per hour. But again, all of those are within our budget projections and what we had estimated for what it would cost in this document before you. So maybe that's enough, and let me
Brad, and just to emphasize,
something else.
The key here is we're working with Ursula and her team to prepare a marketing effort to work with the hotels, the residents, the merchants, and although the town center is going to be under construction, perhaps we can tie the Del Prado shopping effort into to give people another way of getting to Del Prado during a construction period to help with the traffic and the parking. So I'm really excited, and we're really committed to advertising this. Brad, if you could, and I know your communication said that you'd be getting the MOU back to the council in March, just if you could touch upon some of the key deal points, if you haven't already, on the MOU with the Coastal Commission.
The original MOU, we basically added this service. So a lot of the language just says, here we're trying to put in the shuttle service, the harbor service. We've, sent them all of the routes and diagrams and the stops and things. So it memorializes that we're going to do that. We had some concerns because the Coastal Commission wanted a 9-year commitment, whereas the OCTA grant funds were a 7-year commitment. So they have agreed to go with a 7-year commitment instead of a 9-year commitment. The Coastal Commission wanted to add a water taxi and require water taxi service in the harbor as part of this amendment. And we spoke with the harbor, and the truth is they don't feel they have a need for a harbor taxi at this point other than for some special events. And we also noted that the trolley harbor shuttle actually runs a trolley up and down the harbor, so you are, in accordance with the desires of the Coastal Commission to make good public access, we are getting people up and down the harbor as part of the trolley or shuttle side service here. So they have agreed to go with the language that's in the current LCP with the harbor that says we'll study whether and how much a water taxi will be needed, and eventually, if in fact it is needed, that will become a part of the service that will be provided. And because it's coastal transit funds, that's the rationale from the Coastal Commission's perspective that that should be included as some of those expenditures in the future. So those were the kind of the two major sticking points that we had that they have now run up the flagpole and agreed for.
So when we get the final MOU back, so Mr. Munoz and I can review it, what we'll do is we'll put it on, if not the first meeting in March for council approval. But Brad, based upon your representation, I feel fairly confident that the council can go forward tonight with the agreement before them, and we will deal with the MOU as a matter of course.
Thank you.
We'd be happy to respond to any questions the council may have.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comments at this time?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, then we'll move on to bring it back to the council for any council discussion or questions.
Just a remark, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank Brad, his staff, for literally years that's gone into this project, and a lot of frustrating start-stops, more stops than starts, it seems. It's come to fruition. I think that this asset, as you put it, will be as valuable as the participants around town choose to realize its value. So if we can get all the stakeholders working together to get the feasibility of the ridership up, because that's a key to the continuance of the OCTA grant funding, which makes this whole thing possible. I think it's a very exciting mobility solution. It's going to be helpful to business. It's going to be helpful to our tourism. And I had one specific question. Are there going to be bike racks on the...
Yes, they're included on all the vehicles.
Okay, another plus. So thank you. There may be other comments, Mr. Mayor, but I'd move the recommended action.
Any other comments?
Thanks, Brad. You did a great job in that presentation and answered almost all my questions. I just had one left. If we go to daily service, who picks up the cost of that? Right now, I'm looking at this proposal only talks about what the cost for the weekend service is. If we go to a 7-day service, what does that do?
If it's buried in there, but I can show you that towards the back, we actually are projecting out all 7 years, and we have costed the first year at a reduced amount based on the fact that we're only doing the weekends, but the balance of the years 2 through 7 is costed and accounted for as a full summer service. And so the grant funds go up considerably in years 2 through 7.
So again, no net cost to the city, and the grant funds pick it up based upon
That's
the
correct.
percentage of the ridership.
Okay.
And again, the underlying here, Brad, this is a function of the ridership that we can generate.
That's correct.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments by the council? Councilman Hicksort.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd also like to say I think this is an idea whose time has come, and the work that's been done on this is excellent. I'm glad to see we're moving forward. I have one question, and perhaps this is best directed maybe to the city attorney, dealing with the MOU and the interrelation with the awarding of the contract, in the sense that if there are tweaks to the contract, we don't know what those are yet, and in the MOU, and it comes back and there's some negotiation, is there some delay in kicking this off? Can we approve the contract tonight? Does it need to be done together? Does the question make sense?
Yeah, I mean, we can approve the contract and make it subject to compliance with the MOU. So the tweaks that the Coastal Commission's talking about are things that we've got a pretty good handle on already. We want, for the sake of transparency, to bring back the entirety of the contract, the MOU for the council to approve. But I'm pretty confident that the contract that you have before you will be fine under the terms of the MOU as, tweaked.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, I would amend my sitting motion to approve the contract subject to compliance with all terms of the MOU.
Thank you, Mr. Schoffel. Any other comments? Pro Tem.
Mr. Mayor, just two questions. First of all, does OCTA grant a 1-year review, or is it reviewed every year?
It's reviewed every year.
Okay. And then second question, are the trolleys timed for the Laguna Beach trolley to meet at about the same time the Dana Point trolley meets? Will there be coordination with Laguna Beach for those trolleys to meet?
I'd like to be that good, but the answer is no. But and the fact of the matter is that I don't think that's possible, honestly. We don't have control over what their schedules are and what their delays are, because they have a situation where they do get a lot of congestion there in the summertime, as an example. And they have a different number of trolleys servicing than we do. We've got 4. Their number's different. So, they may be trying to hit at a different number of minutes than we are in terms of that.
But Brad, we can make a coordinated effort to make sure the word is out.
We will do the best that we can.
If you want to get to the harbor, get off at the Ritz-Carlton, and then there'll be a Dana Point trolley there to take you to the harbor, the town center, or Doheny Village.
Yes, you'll catch the trolley.
They're not going to be.
Come down coast.
It's not like they're going to get off the bus and get on another one. There may be some delay.
There's going to be
but I'm sure the Ritz-Carlton wouldn't mind captivating them inside for a drink or something while they waited for a connection.
There's a thought. That's why you're the city manager.
That's because I know you, Brad.
So I'm trying to be as honest as I can, and
okay, thank you very much.
We'll do our best.
Okay, Mr. Fowler, my only comment is I've seen an elephant made into a Woody. I don't think it'd be a problem getting a truck into a Woody.
Good point.
That said, I have a first? Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor, please cast your vote. Okay, I have a 5-0 vote. Thank you. Next on the agenda is new business. Item 12, Historic Preservation Agreement. Staff report, Mr. Shakevich?
Yes, Mayor Olvera. This is something that staff and I would like to try and bring back. Years ago, we used to, when a Mills Act agreement was granted, we used to invite the participants to come forward at a council meeting and receive a recognition by the mayor so they can get on TV, but also to let the public know about the Mills Act program and what good it can do and can help them as homeowners. So what I'd like to do is ask Ursula to just provide a brief overview of the program and talk a little bit about the property that we're being recognized tonight.
Thank you. I have a request to speak, so I'll open the public comments and call up Barbara Johannes. Please state your name and place of residence.
and I have the privilege of being president of the Dana Point Historical Society. And the Dana Point Historical Society would like to join with the Community Planning Department and the Planning Commission to recommend that the City Council approve the Mills Act contract with the property owners, Ben and Michelle Day and Boyd and Carol Plowman, who own the Cooks Point House located at 34545 Scenic Drive. The Historical Society is very familiar with this property, as it has been on the Historical Society's home tour in 2004 and again in 2011. And it was like a before and after experience in those 7 years. The owners are to be commended for their tasteful restoration that preserved the significant architecture of this A-frame house known as Cooks Point. It's a landmark for the city and for sailors from sea, and it's the first mid-century structure to be placed on the city's register of historic structures. I hope you saw a recent article that was in the Dana Point Times by Andrea Swain that was an excellent article on the home. The building is important because it's a key focal pivotal point. It has a wonderful visual quality, again, a landmark from the ocean, and it illustrates the development of California locally and regionally. The A-frame is a variation of the resort-style residence that were popular in the 1950s and 1970s, and it has a wonderful incorporation of materials and unique maritime artifacts. So we highly recommend your consideration and approval of the Mills Act for the property. Thank you very much.
Ursula, if you could just give a quick overview on the Mills Act program for the council and those viewing in.
Certainly. First, I'd like to say that the city adopted a historic preservation ordinance back in 2001, and there were criteria that were established. These criteria are consistent with state and federal criteria for preservation of historic resources. So a property needs to comply with 3 of the criteria, and this property was actually 4 of the criteria were identified. And as an incentive to historic preservation, the state has acknowledged the importance of that and has created the Mills Act, which is a property tax benefit to property owners who agree to preserve and maintain their house as a historic structure consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards, which is a higher threshold. For example, you can't put vinyl-clad windows in. There's a number of things that make it a bit more expensive to do, but acknowledging the importance of preserving these historic buildings, the state has offered this incentive. And in this situation of Dana Point, it's always at the desire of the property owner to decide to designate their building as a historic structure. So staff is supportive, and the criteria have been met, and I'm available to answer any other questions.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and close the public comments. Bring it to the council for any discussion. I've got one comment I'd like to make. I want to thank the Historical Society and specifically Ms. Johannes for the years-long effort she has put into historic preservation for the city of Dana Point. And with, as the staff report says, there's some 39 structures listed, and I know one of them includes the schooner, the Curlew in the harbor. And yes, Mr. Shakevich, I would like to encourage you for bringing these, although they're few and far between, to the city council and to give them as much publicity as possible, as they do show the historic significance that Dana Point can show. For me personally now as mayor, it's going to be with great pride that I signed this, because back in 1990, when I was on the Planning Commission, I introduced this concept when we were putting together the general plan as a strictly volunteer program. And so with the Historical Society's support, we have gone over the last 25 years in making quite very good success. With that said, do I hear a motion?
I'll motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Call for the vote. The vote is 5-0. Thank you very much, Barbara, and thank you, staff. We'll go to staff reports. Mr. Shakhevis?
Yeah, I just have one, and I was thinking about the trolley item, Brad, and one of the things we'll talk about our friends to the north, Laguna Beach, who we have a fun little rivalry with. I remember probably 5-6 years ago, an astute code enforcement officer, probably a public works worker, maybe even Matt Sinacori, was out in the public right-of-way and saw some illegal signs that had been placed on city infrastructure, and like doing the capable Johnny-on-the-spot job that they did, and it sounds like a job Matt might have done, remove those signs because they didn't have the appropriate encroachment permits. Within 15 minutes, I had received a call from the Laguna Beach city manager asking me if he could have his transit signs back. And it was amazing how quickly that went around. So after I explained to him the process for obtaining an encroachment permit and doing it the right way and legally way, and after they could show us proof of insurance that they could insure it, the signs went back. So, Brad, what I'd like you to do is I would really like to just sort of the less filling tastes great type of thing. I want to make sure we have the appropriate signage at where people disembark from the Laguna Beach trolley saying this way to the harbor, this way to Del Prado, welcome to Dana Point, and so they make sure they know that there will be a trolley there to pick them up, okay?
Absolutely, and we'll be coordinating.
Absolutely, and that'll suffice.
Yeah,
that concludes my remarks, Mayor.
So I was going to.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Thank you, Mr. Shakhevis.
Yeah, okay. So I should say absolute next time. I think it's important for everybody, at least in our contacts, that there's plenty of people that want to go up to Laguna Beach, and there's plenty of people that want to come down to our harbor. So we're actually going to outreach with the city of Laguna Beach to make sure that we do that, because I think, rising tides float all ships, and I think in this case, what's good for both of us along the coast here will help us as much as it helps them. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Of course, I realize I'm a commander and you're a captain, but I'm still the mayor.
Mayor, I'm the city manager and he works for me. Yes, sir, works just fine.
Mr. Munoz?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have two items this evening. The first, just a follow-up to our closed session report. I neglected to comply with the technical part of the Brown Act, and I should have announced, and we should put in the minutes, that on the item that we reported out on the writ of certiorari question, that it was a 5-0 vote by the council in favor of that. Secondly, there was an interesting case that just came out of the local court of appeal involving the city of Newport Beach. I think it's a very significant case that the council should be aware of. I'll be sending a brief summary of the case around to each of you later on this week. But it dealt with due process and kind of the concept of fundamental fairness that goes into situations when the council acts in a adjudicatory capacity on things like conditional use permits or any discretionary type decision as opposed to legislative decisions. And the situation involved a variance that had been granted by the Planning Commission in Newport that had been appealed by one of the council members. The council member was described by the court as being very outspoken in advance of the hearing on the matter and very outspoken during the hearing on the matter. And in essence, the court ruled that it was inappropriate for someone to be sort of a participant as well as the judge in their own case, and that it violated due process concepts. It's really a significant case because up until now there's never been a ruling that says that if a member of the council were to appeal a planning commission decision, that the council member could not also participate in the hearing of the appeal. The court didn't quite go as far as saying that, although it certainly indicated that under circumstances where there was any sense that the council member who filed the appeal had a bias in advance, that it would be inappropriate. It left open the question that if it was just a neutral appeal where you were bringing forward the appeal because the police chief thought it was a good idea, or that was the example in the case actually, that it would still be okay. So it also raises other ramifications in terms of questions that have previously not particularly been issues. For instance, if you're running for council and you're an advocate of an issue and then you get elected, can you participate in adjudicatory issues or hearings rather on that issue? And certainly on legislative decisions you could participate, but on quasi-adjudicatory issues, it really brings that into question. So, we always strive to make sure that we not only give the appearance of fairness, but actually objectively provide fairness in our hearings and our processes. And we just want to make sure that you're aware of the case. It is a significant new case, very similar to, Mr. Schoff will recall this, at least the Goat Hill Tavern case of about 20 years ago. It's that kind of a landmark decision in land use. So I'm going to send you not just a summary of the case, I'll send you the case itself. It's not a particularly long read, and I think it's really worthwhile, and you should just at least be aware of it. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much. Now I'll bring it to the council itself. Mr. Schoffel, do you have any?
No comments this evening, Mr. Mayor. I'll turn in my list of meetings to my good friend Kathy Ward in the next few days. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilman Vixoric.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I only have one thing to report. I attended the Chamber of Commerce dinner awards on January 29th. Thank you. Pro Tem Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will, no comments this evening. I will submit my report to the city clerk.
And Councilman Mueller.
No comments tonight. I've already turned in my list of meetings.
Thank you, gentlemen. And for my meetings and attendance on January the 27th, I attended the staff's briefing on the parking study. On the 28th, I was in Sacramento with staff to discuss with alcohol beverage control on local control. On the 29th, it was the Library Advisory Board meeting and the Chamber of Commerce installation, where I swore in the new board of directors. And then on the 31st, I was at the multiple sclerosis chapter held at the Marriott, where the city received the annual award for being a partner in support of multiple sclerosis. And that concludes my comments. So we'll adjourn this meeting. The next regular meeting of the City Council will be March the 3rd, 2015 at 5 o'clock in the City Council chambers located at 33282 Golden Lantern Suite 210 in Dana Point. This meeting's adjourned.